Hi, I'm Ben Simon, and welcome to the Simon Says Show. Today's classical Not at the Freight Show features our longtime principal second violinist, Debra Fong, and her very talented family trio featuring her husband, Christopher Costanza, and daughter, Isabella Costanza. I'm sure you'll enjoy this delightful and varied program. We're delighted to have the Costanza Fong family string trio here with us today. Zooming in from Palo Alto, we have Debra Fong and her husband Chris Costanza, all the way from Toronto, Canada, Isabella. It's so nice to see you all. Holiday greetings.
Holiday greetings.
Isabella, tell us, let's start with you. Tell us what you've been up to these past couple days, couple months, couple years.
So I am on holiday break right now up in Canada, toughing it out. It's pretty cold. I'm currently in Toronto doing my artist diploma, studying with Steve Dan. In the years since I have seen you, Ben, I have become a violist, which is, I remember in my PACO audition when I was a kid being solicited the opportunity to play the viola, and finally I've come around to it and I'm never going back. So
wonderful to hear. What is where you're going to school, Isabella?
I am at the Glenn Gould School, which is a beautiful, small little institution about 8 minutes away from where I live, downtown in the heart of Toronto. And I'm absolutely loving it there. I'm going to be graduating in May, and then we'll see what comes next. So,
Chris, you are the cellist of the St. Lawrence String Quartet.
That's right.
At Stanford University. Tell us a little about what you do.
Yeah, well, when things are normal, and maybe you'll get to that point again. There's some hope for that coming up in the new year. I would be on the road quite a lot playing concerts, but here at home, and truthfully, I love being at home. I've been enjoying more than not being at home during all of these months. But I teach cello students at Stanford. I coach chamber groups. With my quartet, of course, we rehearse a lot because quartets rehearse a lot. So much repertoire to learn, and quartets can be difficult things to get together in terms of the repertoire itself and the kinds of work that we have to do. So we rehearse a lot, hit the road, play concerts, teach here, and coach chamber music and do various things on campus as they arise. So it's pretty fulfilling.
And last but not least, Debra, you have been a long time principal second violinist of the San Francisco Chamber Orchestra. Tell us a little about your life pre or during COVID. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. You know, I've really appreciated what San Francisco Chamber Orchestra has been able to provide for the musicians and what you have been able to provide, Ben. I've actually taken pandemic time to continue my teaching, my violin lessons online. I have a baker's dozen of pre-college students who I teach every week, as well as my Stanford violin students during the school year. But my I guess my biggest achievement of 2020 was that I had a total knee replacement, and I was able to, gave me a new lease on life. It was very successful, and I did it at the beautiful New Stanford Hospital and had a wonderful classical music loving surgeon. And the timing was very fortuitous to take this time where we can't really go anywhere to just heal and, do my physical therapy. And so that's been great. It's been 6 months and I'm able to walk and do yoga and exercise, and I am feeling good. Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Up to 2 miles now.
Yay!
it's getting more and more.
Yeah.
Tell us about the family trio, Debra, Chris.
Yeah.
Well, when you're stuck in your house and there are 3 musicians, what else do you do? So, we're really fortunate at the start of the pandemic when everything kind of closed down in March 2020. Isabella flew back to California to join us here and just to kind of hunker down and see, what are we in for? And we found that it was just wonderful to be together during that kind of fearful time. And then we found solace and comfort in playing music together. And so we just enjoyed, after dinner, just pulling our instruments out and playing through some trio stuff. And we had already, before that, we had already started doing some professional recitals as a family string trio.
Yeah, just a couple months before, as a matter of fact.
Right. We had two in January 2020, and we were looking forward to more, but that'll come.
You have a wonderful and varied program to offer our audience. I'm very excited to present this. And the first piece is a few of the Goldberg variations.
Yes.
Or Bach. Tell us how this came into your repertoire, or a little bit about this piece. Any of you?
Well, we've of course been excited about this piece since our various youth years as a piece, because I grew up with first the old Glenn Gould recording, and then in about 1981 he made his second, and it was his final recording actually, of the Goldberg variation. So the piece was really firmly imprinted in my mind as a keyboard piece, and in the case of Glenn Gould, a piano piece. And then, I don't remember the year exactly, but I want to say it was the early 80s, perhaps right after Glenn Gould passed away. Dmitri Sitkovetsky made, I think he made two arrangements. One was for a string orchestra, and then there was a string trio arrangement. And before we discovered the string trio arrangement, we discovered the string orchestra arrangement. A friend of ours in Boston introduced us to the piece in that form. We went out and bought the CD and just obsessively listened to it. And then we realized, wait, there's this string trio version as well. So little by little, when we get together, the three of us, we've been sort of, hitting the various variations.
next piece is a duet for violin and cello by Gliére. Tell us a little about this work.
So Reinhold Gliére is, he wrote these beautiful 8 short little pieces for violin and cello, and they're just these little gems of kind of character pieces. And Chris and I have performed all of them in various places at various family weddings and, gatherings, and they're just wonderful, like I said, tiny little character pieces that are just lovely. And we have this, I guess we're doing the Gavotte. Yeah, this one is the Gavotte, which is kind of bouncy and super fun. And we always kind of return to these Gliére pieces because they're short, they're filled with lots of character and joy, and they're perfect.
Hey, Isabella, in your violin playing days, did you play these? Have you ever played these Gliére pieces?
I didn't, but actually my best friend who just started going to school at Glen Gould as well, she's a violinist, and we were reading some duos the other day. We actually found an arrangement for violin and viola. So
no way.
Yeah, so we're actually going to be playing some on future concerts probably. But I remember we read through the Gavotte and I recognized it. I was like, oh wow! So that's
before, yeah.
The next piece is also something I've never heard. Tell us about Paul Wiancko.
So in March of 2019, I had the opportunity to go to play for this Women Composers Festival in DC with a dear friend of mine who's a pianist, and we put together a show that we just played a bunch of music from women composers and gender nonconforming composers from the past 10 years. And the event was headlined by the Aizuri Quartet, which is they're a fantastic powerhouse all-women ensemble playing cutting-edge new music. And of course I was like, oh, this is what I want to do. So I checked out their discography, and they recorded a piece by Paul Wiancko called Lift, which is just absolutely incredible. I recommend everyone listen to it. And I became fairly obsessed with his music after that. And I was scouring the internet trying to find everything that he'd written pretty much. And I was like, I gotta play some of this. It's so wacky and cool. And the violist, Isabella Costanza, is his girlfriend. And they have a duo together. And Paul has written a number of pieces for the two of them. So I heard this piece, American Haiku, that my dad and I put together. And I thought it was really incredible because it's not that run-of-the-mill Rebecca Clark duo, which is a great piece that is for viola and cello, but it's something completely different that's exploring new sound worlds. It's not just high timbre, low timbre contrast. It sort of blends the mid-range of the viola with the low range of the cello and sometimes switches the voices. And I think it's a really beautiful representation of what the two instruments can do together. And I don't want to misrepresent the piece, but I do believe it is about migration and finding a home. And I think those are themes that are extremely important right now as we continue to fight for Black lives and Indigenous lives, especially living on stolen land. It's really important, I think, to represent this stuff. So I love what the piece does. And I also like how it takes the Americana sound that you find in like Copland and other greats and sort of redefines it and reclaims it for these instruments.
Wow.
Next up is something by Messiaen,
Mhm.
the French composer. Would you like to explain what this is all about?
Yeah, well, boy, we could go on and on about Messiaen.
Well, I
Deborah and
guess we had Chris and I had when we were students at New England Conservatory, we had the fantastic opportunity to coach the Messiaen Quartet for the End of Time with Olivier Messiaen. This was in conjunction with the Boston Symphony's premiere of his oratorio. Is
no,
it
it's an
opera?
opera, huge opera,
Saint Francis of
4-hour
Assisi.
opera.
And so
On that piece.
It's
Yeah.
remarkable. It's
and
just
so,
unbelievably great. Yeah.
Our wonderful contemporary music teacher, John Heiss at the New England Conservatory, asked us to, help put together this quartet to play the Quartet for the End of Time, and it was we had 3 or 4 coachings with
We had a few
Messiaen.
coachings with him. Yeah.
And it was one of the most life-changing experiences that we had ever had. And we learned so much from him. And I just remember, he had his pants hiked all the way up, belt line here. And he sat down and demonstrated at the piano. And he was demonstrating these very Messiaen, 10-note block chords that move around on the keyboard. And you could actually hear the voicing that he intended. And it was just startlingly beautiful and, quite a revelation.
None of this, of course, answers your question. Tell us about the Sacrum Convivium. That was a piece written, and I could be wrong, but I believe it was in the 1930s, for chorus. It's a choral piece, religious choral piece. Messiaen famously was a very devout Catholic. Played organ in a rather large church in Paris until he became quite old. Actually, he was the house organist, and I just stumbled upon this piece on YouTube. Just like let's find some more Messiaen, and I found this piece, and probably a year and a half ago or so, on one of my quartet's concerts in Bing Concert Hall at Stanford, we decided to do a Messiaen set because the great pianist Anne-Marie McDermott was coming. And it turns out one of the last pieces Messiaen wrote was a piece for string quartet and piano, or piano and string quartet. That's simply called piece, or pièce. And it's about 3.5 minutes long. And we thought, well, that maybe doesn't, it's a very interesting piece, but it doesn't totally hold up on its own. So we said, let's take and do a string quartet version of O Sacrum Convivium, really just playing off of the choral score. And I also played the solo movement from the Quartet for the End of Time. And we made a little group of pieces that way. Then fast forward now to pandemic time. Maybe we can do this as a string trio piece. So, I didn't really make an arrangement as such. We just simply played off of the choral score. I think mostly I played the 2 lower voices on the cello because it's like open fifth most of the time. Isabella played the alto part and Debra played the soprano part.
We found it to be quite a fitting mood for the beginning of the first few months of the pandemic, where there was so much unknown and kind of a lot of fear and wanting to hold family close, wanting to hold our dear ones just near to us. And we found a lot of wonderful comfort in this music.
Now we return to the late classical, early romantic era with Ludwig van Beethoven, a composer that most of us have heard about, and his duet for violin and cello. Now, did he write it for violin and cello?
He did not. He wrote it for clarinet and bassoon, as a matter of fact.
And we stole it.
Yeah, there are three of these duos actually, but we, you know, the repertoire for violin and cello duo is relatively small. I mean, the list is it's probably really long, but most of it is unknown. So pieces that we know, not too many of them, and so these Beethoven duos come up frequently for us, you know, and also because of their very nature, they're lively, exciting pieces.
Yeah, and it's wonderful to include just because, you know, this is 2020 is the 250th birthday year of Beethoven, and so why not? And he's also looming right over your shoulder, Ben. So we have to include Beethoven, right? So this duo this video that we're about to see is from a performance that Chris and I did for Stanford Medicine and the Muse Stuck at Home concerts, which are it's a concert series that was started by Stanford Medicine and the Muse during the pandemic, and most of the performers on the series have something to do with Stanford or Stanford Medicine. So it was kind of fun to be able to be included in that.
So a little party music from Beethoven.
Yes.
Okay. Now we move on to one of your arrangements, Chris, of a movement from the beautiful Duruflé Requiem. Tell us how you came to arrange this movement.
Well, Deborah was involved with this project too. Our wonderful colleague at Stanford, Stephen Sano, um, frequently comes up with recording projects involving his incredible Stanford Chamber Chorale. Every year he puts together this remarkable group of students. And the project for, well, it's now a couple of years. I can't remember the date exactly when we made the recording of the Duruflé Requiem, but we did this recording in Stanford Memorial Church with organ and strings, and I think it was timpani and trumpet, and some vocal soloists, and then that's the full orchestration of the piece. The Pie Jesu is a movement that involves the low alto voice, or she might even be contralto, singing along with organ and solo cello. And I became so excited about this movement from learning it for that project, for that performances and recording. It just popped into my head one day when we were sitting at home in April or whenever it was, that it might be kind of fun to try to arrange it.
It's very cool to play this. I played this once before, and it was really awesome to be able to play this in a small setting. I think that's the great thing about string trios, is that we have all the ranges. You don't really need a fourth voice all the time. It's very cool that we can take these pieces and condense them like this, and it was really great.
I was just feeling really grateful, that we can. Some people play Monopoly, with their families.
Yeah, we sit around and arrange Duruflé movements. Well, Duruflé is an interesting character too. Not to get too far into it, but he lived until about 1986, I think, and burned most of his musical compositional output. He was so dissatisfied. He left behind very little music, but this piece, well, probably would say it's his magnum opus. I mean,
Yes.
the full Requiem
Definitely,
is an incredible piece.
yeah.
I encourage you all to listen.
So let's move on to a very famous duo for violin and cello, the one by Maurice Ravel, one of my favorite pieces in the repertoire. Chris and Deborah, I assume that you fell in love and eloped over this piece of music.
Exactly
Yes,
right.
many
No,
times.
I mean, we first played it when we were in school in the '80s. So, I mean, it's
You know, you're dating somebody and you're like, hey, let's play Ravel duo.
Okay,
You know,
fine,
instead
no
of
problem.
going out for pizza or whatever, let's play Ravel.
kind of true. No, it's notoriously difficult, very awkward to play. But you know, we've been doing it for so long that it does come back rather quickly when we decide to relearn it and perform it again. And you know, we learn new things about it each time we pull it out of the out of the music filing cabinet and start to practice it, and rehearse it again. It's an interesting piece. It was the first movement was written for a memorial concert for Debussy. Debussy died in 1918, and the first one at least was written in 1920. I think it was 10 composers were commissioned to write short works to honor Debussy. They were published in a journal. And then Ravel completed the piece shortly thereafter. I think by about 1922 it was finished. A full four-movement work, very traditional in form, actually. This movement that we're offering today is what we would call a Sonata Allegro form. It has an exposition, it has sort of a development section and a recapitulation, a really clear return to the opening. And then there's a scherzo movement, there's a beautiful, beautiful slow movement, and then a kind of rondo-y, bouncy last movement that ties all the four movements together. And it's in its entirety, it's about 22 minutes, 23 minutes, the work. But the first one, I think, stands alone quite well, characterized by this undulating sense of major and minor, A minor, A major. It's essentially a tonal work, but right from the very beginning, you can't tell if it's going to be in a major key or a minor key. And the jury's still out.
Yeah, and we love this piece. I mean, Chris and I performed this piece a lot, and it's, you know, kind of one of the pillars of our duo repertoire. It's the good old standby, and we just feel really lucky to be able to play it. I think the music speaks just very poetically a lot of human emotion that, you know, that's what I feel when I'm playing it. And it gets kind of raucous in the last movement, the fourth movement of this piece, but it's like rock and roll. But it's super fun to play, and it's quite challenging for both parts.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, last but not least, Franz Schubert, who wrote a couple of little string trios, nothing like his string quartet output, but tell us about this work.
Isabella, what do you think?
Well, so about 2 summers ago, in 2018, my parents had a concert in Santa Fe, New Mexico, of the duo repertoire, where they played what you just heard in its entirety, along with some other stuff. And I, at that point in my life, was considering an addition of the viola to my life. So I had access to an instrument courtesy of a friend of ours. And we thought that let's play an entry. Well, it's not really entry level because it's a beautiful piece, but let's play a string trio that is doable for someone who can't read how to clef very well at the time, and some sort of still the case. So we decided to play this short little 2-movement. It is it's one movement. Yeah,
there is part of a second movement.
Yes,
right. But this is just
It's
one
just
movement.
a fragment.
Yeah.
But we decided to play this piece as sort of like a little way to round off that program. And it's such a delightful little beautiful Schubertian it sounds like a family piece. It sounds like it was written for a family. So we really enjoyed putting that together. It's really fun and tuneful, and it has its virtuosic moments here and there, but it was the first piece I ever played as the official violist of the Fong Costanza Trio. So it was really nice to come back to it like almost 2 years later and sort of see if it was any easier, and it was, even more delightful.
it's been a delight to talk with you all, and we enjoyed your concert so much. Thank you for sharing so much wonderful music with us. We hope that you can get together in person soon, and we can come to your concert in person soon. So, classical at the Freight or classical not at the Freight.
Right.
Thank you so much for joining us today, and we hope to see you soon.
All
Thanks for
right.
having
Thank
us.
you so much.
Thanks so much.
Bye-bye. And thanks to the Medallia Company for their generous support of the San Francisco Chamber Orchestra season.